What's cracking, you mad lads out there? And today we're going to be discussing, since now that we know that there's probably always going to be 2 rerun characters per rerun banner, I should say, or I guess that makes sense. So this is bringing up a lot of controversy. People are afraid that Xiao and Ganyu are going to be on the same banner, and they're not going to have Primo gems for some of these really powerful characters. But I'm here to maybe make a tier list of characters that you should consider pulling for, at least at Z0, of who is going to be the most helpful and impactful to your team. And these are all just going to be 5-star characters, and none of the standard 5-star characters like Chi-Chi, Jean, D-Luke, you know, all them. Although there are some characters that are considerably better than, I guess, some of the other 5-star characters on banners. Now with this tier list, I'm going to be a lot stricter. I'm going to try and say the reasons why some of these characters are like really above, because they're hyper carries that can really help out your team, or maybe because they're super flexible and they're hyper carries in that way. So let's just get straight into it. Now I should also state for the record, if you have a waifu, husbando, whatever, definitely pull for them, okay? That's what you want. Play the game you want. The game is easy enough to do whatever you want. This is merely just a list to help you gauge which characters would potentially be more powerful than others. Let's go with Albedo. And I'm going to put Albedo, unfortunately right now, I would say Albedo is in an A tier list for support. He's a really good unit. But right now, in the current state of the game, he's an A tier unit. The main reason for that is because he is Geo. That is literally the only thing that's holding him back. If he was like water, if he was fire, if he was literally any other element other than Geo, he would be so massively broken. But let's just say my boy Albedo out here, he's able to slam down his E and instantly get like 20k damage in the current state that the game is, which is incredible, by the way. A lot of people would love 20k damage every 1.5 seconds. That's ludicrous damage. However, in the future, he might even go up to an S tier, potentially even S plus tier. I assume he's going to go up 1 tier because of the new artifact sets that are going to come out that are really going to creep his damage up to the maximum. I think some people even mathed it into like 66% increased damage. That's nutty. If you stack Goro with him, he's probably going to be very strong. But again, he really only works in like Geo mono element teams, but you can also throw him in with like a Xiao if you have it certain constellations. But I'm only going strictly for C0, plain and simple. And he does work by himself. He adds elemental mastery. He's really easy to build. That's why he's an A tier. Now, the next up here is Eula. Now, currently, Eula is a very good carry unit. However, she requires a lot of investment. And she's also physical damage. And her best partner is also the Raiden Shogun. So if you don't have the Raiden Shogun, you know, it's kind of unfortunate. So I'm actually going to put Eula at a B tier list, even though she can put up upwards to 100k, 200k damage for a free player. But she requires lots of investment. She requires a Pale Flame domain grind, where she's literally the only person that can benefit from it. And I mean, I guess if you have Zhongli, you can use Zhongli. But again, that's because the tenacity set's only really good for Zhongli. I mean, technically, you could use that on Albedo or Fischl if you want just to have the buff going around constantly. But it's really not optimal because you will be losing out on a lot of damage if you use, say, other sets. However, if we're talking about a C6 Eula, then she's going to be jumping up to an S plus tier. So depending on how much you want to wail for your Eula, I mean, she could be very, very, very powerful. But honestly, the fact that physical DPS is never really going to be meta, it does terrible against shields. Like, there's a lot of things out there that resist physical damage too. It's rough being a physical DPS main. Next up is Ayaka. She is a very, very, very powerful unit. Her ult is absolutely devastating. I'm going to put temporarily for now until I see maybe or think about it a little bit more. Her in the S plus tier. She is very strong. She's like the offshoot of Ganyu. Spoilers alert. She has a very simple kit. Literally just slashing things, go underneath like the snow, and then pop back up to infuse cryo into your sword. Very powerful unit. She does a lot of damage. She also uses the Cryo Artifact set, which is insanely powerful for her and gives her virtually free reign on crit. She gets so much crit from the Cryo Resonance and also that artifact set, and if you freeze them, oh my lord, you can stack so much crit damage, you really don't even need to worry about crit chance anymore. Her ult is 80 cost, so it's a little bit pricey, so you kind of have to build like a Diona to go with her to like feed her some energy, or at least something else to like really feed her ult and all. But other than that, she's solid. She doesn't have any downtime. You can use her as much as you want. There's no restriction on her like gameplay style. She's a very good unit. Now this should be absolutely no surprise. Ganyu straight to S+ tier. She will carry you through everything. She is a goat with a bazooka. She can also use that very overpowered cryo set for easy crits and other things like that. Or she can use the Wanderer's Troop, which I'm sure you've been gathering a lot because of all the grinding for characters and other things. You probably got at least a few good pieces laying around because of that. Especially for free-to-play people out there, even at C0, she's absolutely bustedly broken. Very good, just like Ayaka, honestly. Except Ganyu has way better AoE than Ayaka, and she hits just with her normal attack as hard as she wants, whenever she wants. She's busted. Now, Hu Tao out here, she is a very powerful unit. However, she does require other units to build with her. She's not like a super hyper carry like Ganyu is, so that's why I'm putting her in the S tier. Still a very powerful unit, and you can get her right now if you need. A super busted unit, especially because Pyro is just a very good element, one of the best elements in the game, if not the best. However, I will say for the record, she is very reliant on Xingqiu, much like other Pyro users are, to proc that Vaporize reliably. You can use other units such as Mona if you have her, but again, that's another 5-star that you're not guaranteed to have, so, you know, like, it's rough without a Xingqiu with her. But to say the least, I can get upwards of like 80k charged attacks, which is disgusting with my Hu Tao, with the Staff of Homa. And on my girlfriend's account, I can get 40k damage on her free-to-play. She's good. So because of how reliant she is on other characters, and a little bit of how squishy she is, always have to be at 50% for maximum damage, and sometimes needing shields, and because you have to work around like heals a little bit too to make sure she's not too healed all the time, I'm just giving her S tier. Kazuha. Here is one of the few 5-stars in the game that has absolutely busted the Abyss wide open in metacomps because of how powerful he is at buffing, grouping, and damage all at the same time. He's like Bennett 2.0. If he only healed, he would surpass Bennett. Kazuha is just the Chad support unit that will easily buff all of your units, shred resistances, group everything together easily, and be a freaking battery. He's so good. He goes with literally every element in the game besides Geo. If I could think of any downside to Kazuha, he just doesn't heal. No, he's the most busted 5-star support in the game. He's so good. You need him. If you have a banner, if he gets a rerun, you 100% want Kazuha. Now this breaks my heart to do this to her because I really like her personality. She's freaking hilarious. One of the most hilariously written characters in the entire game. Klee, but in terms of like DPS and other things like that, I'm gonna have to put her in the C tier. She's really fallen off. One of the first few characters brought into the game, but her clunky kit kind of works against her. The fact that there's no real good catalyst out there to really bolster her damage exceptionally. She's just got some issues, okay? Now, her constellations really help her out in terms of, like, say, support, being a good energy battery for the rest of the team, and being able to actually swap off her ult for, like, a massive DPS burst at C4. Constellations fix a lot of her problems, but, again, this is supposed to be Z0, so, you know, like, she's got some issues. I like the fact that she can serve as such a phenomenal energy battery for everything, but her kit for a catalyst user, she's basically like this squishy little glass cannon that you have to be right up close, and you hope you don't get interrupted. You have to constantly, in order to get the prime DPS, like jump around, do jump cancels, do all these weird stuff in order to get maximum DPS potential. it's annoying. However, it's very rewarding if you do all of it, but her kit needs some work, and I can't recommend her, especially with characters like Hu Tao out there that can output significantly more damage. Now, this also breaks my heart because I like this unit a lot in the overworld. She makes just the game an absolute breeze, but she doesn't bring a lot to the table. And that's gonna be Kokomi. I think she deserves, again, a C tier. She's not, like, E tier like I would put, like, Chi-Chi right now, okay? She's definitely leagues above a Chi-Chi. She actually uses the Hydro element very well. She's, you know, so if you have, like, a fireworks team, you know, you got Beto, you got Fischl, you could just use her and chunk everybody out there. And you know what? You could be Zhongli to shred resistances even more and just be this absolute unkillable powerhouse. That's a really fun team. So for her being this absolutely immortal god, that's easy to build because she doesn't require crit rate or crit damage, so you're going to have a bunch of artifacts laying over. You know, she's going to be exceptionally easy to build and to bring up to a good ceiling. Not to mention that she's also may get bumped up a tier to make maybe B, possibly A, maybe even S, depending on how good the new artifact set that's designed specifically for her, for the overhealing mechanics. She's going to definitely get a huge DPS boost here in the future. So, again, this is tentative right now, but as of right now, I would put Kokomi in a solid C. Now, the Raiden Shogun is a very good energy battery unit that helps bolster the DPS of a lot of things. She's even in, like, I guess the meta comp right now with Raiden Shogun and other things. She is an exceptionally powerful unit. Good Archon. I love her. And if you get Constellation, she gets even more broken. But for C0, because, you know, she doesn't have that 80% defense res when she ults, like in her C2, which is absolutely busted. She's only S tier. However, the fact that she's able to bolster the damage of literally everyone in the party's ult just by pressing E, and it's like always up for 30 seconds, absolutely nuts. She also is able to, when she slashes around with her ult, give everybody free energy, which is nutty as well. And she gets super armor, and it's really flashy and cool, and does pretty good damage. She's a really good unit. She's a really good, powerful unit. Now, this next one here is going to be exceptionally biased to me, but I have never been really impressed with this character, nor his playstyle. And that's Child. He's right next to Eula in terms of being useful, I should say. I can't, man. He's good with Zhongli causing the vaporizers out there, but if you have Xingqiu, that's good enough, honestly. Child's damage is really not that good against single targets. And against two targets, it's like, still kind of bad. But it does get exceptionally pretty good against 3 targets or more, but they have to be grouped. And most of the time he's pushing them away, especially because his charge attack knocks things away that are smaller. It's kind of annoying. You have to have some grouping mechanics and other things like that. And the downtime, like when you don't actually have his E up, kind of sucks. So, like, his kit is clunky, and he doesn't do that much damage. All he does is apply Hydro rapidly, and that's really the only thing that's keeping him kind of meta. He's still not a bad unit, though, by any stretch of the means, especially if they're grouped up and all the conditions align. He can do some serious damage, much like Eula can. So, I think B tier is very fair for him. Now, Xiao is such a controversial character because he requires very strict teams to do insane amount of damage, especially like a good 5-star weapon to really see a good spike in it. But honestly, as he stands right now, I don't like playing Xiao. I don't like his pogo stick gameplay. But still, he's capable of putting out good damage. But I don't think he deserves A tier. I'm going to still put him in a B tier because of his restrictive teams. He's much like Eula, where his element really doesn't matter. He could be Geo for all I care, and it would change nothing about his kit. In fact, if he was Geo, it actually probably would be a benefit this next patch out here, because he would be doing probably more damage. But the fact that he hurts himself whenever he holds, he requires some sort of heals, he requires maybe some shields, and he requires, I would say he pairs pretty well with Albedo too, in that fact. It's one of his best units to pair with is Albedo. But he's got like a very expensive team to kind of pair. He needs some sort of battery to make sure his ult's always up too. Like, say, a Sucrose or a Kazuha. Like, when all the stars align, he turns into a very powerful unit, but he's just so selfish. He's like Razor. He's like a better Razor. He's so selfish. I can't really put him that good up there. This next character is Venti, and it should become no surprise to you. He's a very powerful unit with his grouping mechanics. However, I cannot put him in the S+ tier, mainly because there's a lot of things out there that counter his crowd control, which is his main thing that he's used for, and will just literally walk out of his ult. And it's super annoying when that happens. However, he's still very powerful. If you can get him in freeze compositions, he'll suck everything up. You can freeze them all in place and just do crap tons of damage to them while they're literally helpless and can do nothing. Hence, Team Morgana is so powerful. He basically feeds himself all the energy he needs as a solo Anemo user, just spamming E, and he basically gets his ult back for free with a passive. It's insane how much energy regeneration this guy has. However, because of Kazuha's existence, Kazuha's mere existence alone of being able to do what Venti does, but just a little bit slightly worse, but still be able to do this wide AoE where it doesn't really matter where they are and buff the entire team and a crap ton, Kazuha just outscales Venti completely for me. Yoimiya. Now, Yoimiya had a little bit of controversy with her and her kit, her not being that good, but over time people saw just how much damage Yoimiya can really dish out, and it's quite exceptional, especially with a Rust. She can hit pretty freaking hard for free-to-play. A very easy free-to-play unit. Just hit E, watch her do a crap ton of damage, especially if you have a Rust. She could get pretty nasty. But, I mean, she does require a team composition other characters to use, fairly well. Her vaporized mechanics don't work that well, so that's why some people pair her with, other things like Electro units. But I don't know if I could put her above, say, Eula, so I'm gonna, again, a solid B tier unit. Pyro is really what's carrying her kit, because it's so powerful, and I've seen her output at the same amount of DPS, but because of her kit being so busted, her ult kind of sucking wiener, her missing a lot of her shots sometimes from things being knocked around, I can only put her at a B. And for the final one that is released so far, Mr. Zhongli himself. This should be no surprise whatsoever because how powerful and busted his shield is. Again, he's S+ tier. Can completely trivialize the game. You can put him in any team. He is phenomenal. He has the giant meatball of CC, crowd control, everything gets frozen. Super good. Nothing wrong there. Very, very good unit. And sometimes his pillars can be kind of useful because, you can climb up on them and dodge all sorts of attacks. Very nice, very useful. The fact that his shield slashes all resistance to elements is insane to me too, so. Very powerful unit. If his banner ever comes up and you don't have him, he's going to be a character that you can literally put in any team, and he'll be super powerful. Now, if you're curious of where I put the standard 5-star characters here, again, I would put Diluc probably next to Xiao. This is still a very good unit to have. I would definitely put Mona in the A tier, possibly lower S tier too, because of how much she, buffs and does everything. She's Water Hydro Premium unit. Great support, lots of damage, very good. Keqing, unfortunately, she would probably go right there in C tier, possibly even D tier because, she's Electro and she doesn't really do that much damage. And Jean, again, would be a solid, probably A tier unit because, she's able to heal, do lots of damage. Again, that's where I would put those units. So I hope this guide was helpful on deciding of who you would want to pull for, especially in a raid-up war banner out there where you're like, which one do I want? Just decide on, which one would be more helpful for your account if you need supports, if you need a main DPS. And main DPSs are a dime a dozen. There's always going to be some character that's going to power creep another character in the future. You can probably guarantee it. But a good support unit that can literally fit in any team is premium existence, such like Kazuha or say Zhongli or even Raiden Shogun. Those characters you can put in virtually any team and they will do phenomenal in. So happy rolling to all you guys out there that are excited for the new Albedo and Eula rerun banner out there. Again, roll for your waifu husbando. That's what this is all about, man. But I'm just here to help you free-to-players out there. Maybe try and consider what would be best for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you beautiful sons of guns again next time.